Up next, we have a new diet craze, and the creator is Dr. Phil McGraw. Yes, the very same Dr. Phil that we've all seen on TV. Today, we'll discuss whether this famous psychologist is actually onto something, or if it's all just another fad diet. So what is Dr. Phil proposing? He calls it the ultimate weight loss solution, and it focuses on building self-control and breaking dependency on certain foods. The diet is apparently designed to make the dieter more comfortable with the dieting process, as well as promoting a healthy mindset with food. As Dr. Phil says in his new book, changing what you eat, why you eat, where you eat, when you eat, and how you eat, all in a way that is natural for you. The diet claims to increase the body's calorie burn. Dr. Phil suggests that the diet can help you reach your weight goal in the third phase, which is 20 days long and 10 days from the start of the diet. He also focuses on changing an individual's mindset. In addition to reaching physical weight goals, his diet teaches healthier habits that help people stay away from toxic diet mindsets. There are 4 phases to Dr. Phil's ultimate weight loss solution. Phase 1 is 5 days long, in which you only eat 20 key power foods. These power foods are coconut oil, green tea, mustard, olive oil, almonds, apples, chickpeas, dried plums, prunes, leafy greens, lentils, peanut butter, pistachios, raisins, yogurt, eggs, cod, rye, tofu, and whey powder. After those 5 days, there is a 5-day sustain period where you add foods outside of the 20 power foods. However, all meals and snacks must have at least 2 of the original 20 foods. In Phase 3, there is a 20-day sustain period where more foods are allowed. You eat 4 meals 4 hours apart for those 20 days. In this phase, 2 splurges are allowed each week, but per each splurge, you're not allowed to exceed 100 calories. In the final phase, there is no time limit, as this is a management phase where you make the necessary lifestyle changes such as eating healthy foods or exercising, but there are no real restrictions. Dr. Phil says that there should be no special pills, supplements, or elixirs involved with this diet. He promotes dieting the hard and natural way, and he focuses on eating those 20 specific foods. Since there aren't any special supplements and the diets focus on fairly accessible foods, you don't have to worry about wringing out your wallet. The diet involves regular grocery costs. Dr. Phil suggests planning out your meals ahead of time and buying those ingredients specific to your meals. As he states, a well-planned food strategy frees you from making last-minute decisions about what to eat and prevents you from caving into sudden impulses to overeat. In addition to no extreme dieting pills and no additional extra costs, the diet also does not promote an unhealthy amount of exercise. One should aim for at least 3 to 4 hours a week of moderate physical activity and at least 2 to 3 hours a week of vigorous physical activity. Now, we'll talk to a doctor about what happens biochemically in the body about this diet. We have Dr. Safah with us today on a Zoom call from home.
From a distance, this diet looks great. The foods are nutritious and it encourages a healthy lifestyle. But let's look deeper into some of the superfoods. The diet includes healthy fats, cis, mono, unsaturated fats, which are the best for our bodies because of their structure. The double bonds in the hydrocarbon chain cause kinks, which means it's not packed tightly together. This means that they're liquid at room temperature, lowering the chance of them clogging arteries and solidifying in our veins. These fats also increase our levels of HDL, which is good cholesterol, reducing our risk of heart disease. Some foods in this diet that include unsaturated fats are olive oil, peanut butter, and almonds. In addition, this diet encourages fish, which includes some of the essential fatty acids our body needs, such as omega-3 fatty acids. Essential fats are fats that must be consumed because they are vital for our health. Since fats are a key part of our cell membrane, they're used for energy and they help transport cholesterol into the blood. Fats are broken down through cellular respiration by being broken down into their basic units, glycerol and fatty acid. Glycerol enters through the first step of cellular respiration, which is glycolysis, and fatty acids are converted into a molecule called acetyl-CoA, ready to enter the third step of cellular respiration, the Krebs cycle. It's through these processes that energy can be produced. Another huge thing right now is the whole low-carb trend. And with Dr. Phil, while he doesn't necessarily say no carbs, he does recommend sticking to a low-carb diet. In the beginning stages of the diet, there are very little carbs and the diet encourages physical activity. Dr. Phil says, aim for at least 3 to 4 hours a week of moderate activity and at least 2 to 3 hours a week of vigorous activity. This means when working out, the body will look for a source of energy. Since the first source of energy is carbohydrates and they aren't available, the body will use or burn fat. He also recommends avoiding foods with simple carbohydrates and sugars. Disaccharides are considered simple carbs and are discouraged in the diet because our body breaks them down quickly, resulting in a faster utilization of sugar, which can spike blood sugar. These disaccharides include sucrose, lactose, and maltose, which can all easily be rearranged to glucose and be broken down through cellular respiration and used up immediately. Examples of these could be soda, cookies, and high fructose corn syrup. Complex carbs are better for us because they're polymers, so the body takes longer to break them down. We use one sugar molecule at a time because glucose is being released at a consistent rate. Instead of spiking our blood sugar, this produces energy, or ATP, at a steady rate. These mainly include vegetables, grains, beans, etc. Another essential macromolecule in our body is protein. The superfoods do include a decent amount of protein, including almonds, eggs, and tofu, which contain all 9 essential amino acids that our body needs but cannot produce itself. Protein helps keep you full for longer, which is beneficial in a diet like this because there's a certain amount of time to wait in between each meal, and it also reduces the chances of snacking between meals. Protein plays a critical role in all body processes because the enzymes that catalyze the vital chemical reactions in your body, including the synthesis of ATP, are proteins. Of course, with anything, an excess amount of protein can end up being stored as fat, but that's just another disadvantage of there being no restriction on calories in this diet. In order to be broken down, proteins are broken into their monomers, which are amino acids, and these can enter at different stages of cellular respiration depending on the amino acid. In regards to how much ATP or energy is being generated by the macromolecules in this diet, it's hard to say since there's no restriction on food quantities. It definitely varies from person to person and how much protein, carbs, or fat they're choosing to include after the first phase of the diet and how much of these foods that they're eating.
Now, we will speak to a nutritionist, Dr. Eesha, who will explain whether or not this diet is worth trying, or if Dr. Phil has given us yet another fad diet.
Unlike other fad diets that are very obviously unhealthy for the body and the mind, this diet presents itself as something different, something that could actually work. However, it isn't. There are very obvious benefits to this diet, but at the same time, there are very obvious dangers and risks. Let's start with the restrictions and food intake. In the first 3 phases of the diet, Dr. Phil presents various restrictions. However, there are no strict rules regarding quantity. He promotes 20 superfoods, and in the first phase, only these foods are allowed. Despite them all being healthy and having nutritional value, there are no specific meal plans or calorie limits. Thus, one can easily overeat or even undereat while still following Dr. Phil's rules. Undereating is extremely dangerous. Although weight is very easily lost when one consumes a small number of calories, there are various health risks to it. This can include infertility, anemia, a weakened immune system, developmental problems, and many, many more. Your body requires a certain amount of calories to function, and by not meeting this minimum, you are putting yourself at great risk. Additionally, overeating is equally harmful. Although Dr. Phil's superfoods are nutritious, some, including nut butters and oils, are very high in calories. This can result in weight gain and an increase in health problems. This first phase also has mental risks that contradict Dr. Phil's claims. The first 5 days of the diet, one is restricted to 20 specific foods. In the later phases, more foods can be added, however, only in moderation. It's very unlikely that someone could even stick to the first 5 days. By putting labels on food and restricting yourself to only a small amount of options, you are risking a binge in the future. Individuals in this phase can feel unhappy or unmotivated. During the next phases, although more foods are allowed, Dr. Phil is putting labels on them, deeming the 20 superfoods as the miracle foods, whereas the other foods are forbidden for some time and then can slowly be added back. He again puts no calorie or quantity limits, making the line between a treat, a cheat meal, and an entire binge day very thin. These 3 phases are flawed as they completely contradict the aim of the diet. The only thing worth listening to is the final maintenance phase. However, it's unlikely that one can even reach the 4th phase. Dr. Phil promises that goals are achieved by the end of the 3rd phase, but if they're not, he says to start over, from phase 1 again. He wants to promote healthy mindsets, but at the same time, if you don't reach your weight goal in 20 days, start restricting again. That makes sense. His initial idea is pretty valid. Rather than continuing to give people fad diets that are only dangerous to not only the body but the mind, he tries to promote a healthy way of thinking. He aims for people to create healthy relationships with their food and bodies. But the first three phases of the diet completely contradict those teachings. He wants to fix toxic diet culture mindsets. Food is fuel, and everything in moderation. However, at the very start, he makes 20 foods the superfoods. Everything else is not allowed. Junk food is forbidden until maybe a few days later, where it's only allowed once or twice a week. And then later you can have it, but be careful. Try and stick to moderation. His ideas are confusing since they contradict each other and he doesn't give you a set plan. Best bet, skip to the fourth step. Dr. Phil has a good idea in the fourth phase. Work on your relationship with food. Stick to a calorie deficit. Enjoy your favorite foods in moderation. Don't bother trying to restrict yourself because it'll only harm your mindset. Focus on eating healthy. You can try out the 20 superfoods. Although restrictions are bad, these 20 foods are great for keeping you full and energized. Listen to your body as well. Exercise and stay moving. And make sure you're enjoying your life instead of being consumed by toxic dieting.
Thank you for joining us on today's Fad Diet segment. Next up, sports.